Howdy, friends. Welcome to Inside Russia. This is Konstantin, and I intend to do something different today. Very technically challenging stream for me, but let's jump into it anyway. On November 28th, 2023, just a few short days ago, Vladimir Putin gave his most important speech of the year. He introduced Russia's new ideology. I, among some other people, call it Putin'Sm. But it can also be called as the total war. Putin made a long speech in front of so-called Russian World People's Council. And I'd like to react and comment and debunk his speech today. I feel that you need to know the truth. Howdy, everyone. As usual, this is Konstantin and Inside Russia. You will find truth, common sense, and logic here. No BS, no lies, no propaganda. You will find some emotions too, as I am a human being. Now, let's jump into Vladimir Putin's speech. Let me turn on his speech. I remind you, it was made a few days ago, at so-called Russian World People's Council, whatever it is. I made an entire stream describing this event. And it happened yesterday, and I'm gonna put down a link. Check out and watch that stream. I tried to explain what this new ideology called Putin'Sm is all about. But today I actually want to comment the speech he made. It's quite something else. Let's go.
Российской Федерации
It has English subtitles. It's in Russian, obviously. And I'll be making pauses, and I want you to... hang on one second. Looks like I need to move my overlay a little bit so it's out of your way. Let's just put it right here. And, I'll be down with it. Very complicated technically, Okay, shall we? So I want you to look at this picture, and I want you to see, this is the very first impression this thing makes, Check this out. Vladimir Putin is gigantic. There's a huge screen, and it's right in the middle of this huge hole, right? Vladimir Putin is in the middle of two large icons, and they're both identical, and Jesus Christ is pictured on both of them. I don't really know whose idea that was, but the message is clear. Vladimir Putin is mighty, and Jesus Christ is with him, helping him. Jesus is on the left and on the right. Mighty. I personally don't like this picture, this setup. I think it's cheesy, okay? So you decide. And it also reminds me the scene of the movie 1984. If you remember that huge screen, the big brother is telling you something from the screen, and it's like 5 minutes of hate or something like that. And everyone is sitting just like in this hall, in this venue. And look how small everyone looks right next to Vladimir Putin. Look, this is... Anyway, this is the first impression.
Святейший патриарх Московский и всея Руси Кирилл.
The head of Russian Eastern Orthodox Church obviously is here. And they're singing sermon. Is this service at church, or it's some kind of a council, civic council? It's really hard to make out, don't you think? Patriarch Kirill, again, the head of the Russian Eastern Orthodox Church, he is opening the ceremony, and he's asking Vladimir Putin to give them a speech. This is grotesque. Folks, is this just me, or you also find this grotesque? Please let me know in the comments. I really want to know.
Ваше Святейшество, дорогие друзья, приветствую всех участников Всемирного Русского Народного Собора. Он был учрежден в 1993 году.
Now, this right here is one of the first questions is why Vladimir Putin did not show up at this venue, at this council personally. Obviously, he is not limited in transportation. He flies all over Russia. He can fly from one part of Russia to another part in just a couple hours. Why he's not there personally? If this is such an important event. And we're kind of given a look, behind the scenes look of what's happening in the cabinet. And Vladimir Putin is not that big here, is he?
Мы помним, какое это было время. Сложное, переломное для страны. Тогда собор смог объединить вокруг общих целей представителей Русской Православной Церкви, других религиозных организаций, политические партии, движения, деятелей культуры, ученых, предпринимателей, людей разных взглядов, убеждений, национальностей.
Now, Vladimir Putin is not lying here, okay? He's telling the truth, but not the whole truth. This event, the council, this Russian World People's Council, is indeed 30 years old. Indeed, it took place every single year. It's an annual event, and indeed, it was organized in 1993. But it did not unite people behind it. It was an event non-existent in political life, in social life, you know. No people knew about this event. It was not televised. It was not, Russians were not really informed about. That was a local event of the church and perhaps some people. And Vladimir Putin is telling us that, oh my gosh, this Russian world event has been huge since 1993. That is not true. It became huge in 2023. For the past 5 years, Vladimir Putin did not attend. He did not make speeches. He did not even acknowledge this. Well, he sent words. That's it. And now he's saying that since 1993, this event, this council has been uniting the cream of the crop of the society. You know, no, no, and no.
Но едино в главном. В своей твердой патриотической позиции. Хочу прежде всего поблагодарить вас.
Patriotic position? Oh, come on, give me a break. No one talked about patriotism in 1993. In the 90s, people were trying to survive. In the 90s, everyone was confused. The country that they were born and raised in had just collapsed, and no one knew what would be patriotic about. That is not true, what he's saying.
Поблагодарить за поддержку, за ваш вклад в укрепление российской государственности, гражданского мира и согласия.
Russian statehood. He's going to be saying that a lot. Russian statehood. What is Russian statehood?
В консолидацию общества. И за ту помощь, которую вы всегда оказываете соотечественникам, всем, кого объединяет большой русский мир.
The great Russian world. You folks remember, write it down. The great Russian world. Oh, the great Russian world. It's absolutely interesting.
Знаю, что многие представители Всемирного Русского Народного Собора находятся сейчас на Донбассе и в Новороссии, среди волонтеров и добровольцев, в рядах воинских подразделений.
People have no clue what this council was about. Come
Защищают
on.
наших братьев и сестер, миллионы людей в Донецкой и Луганской.
I would like to know who they are defending our brothers and sisters, millions of people from, and where. In Ukraine, from Ukrainians on their own soil? Interesting.
Народных республиках, в Херсонской и Запорожской областях. Искренне признателен участникам Всемирного Русского Народного Собора за ту помощь, которую вы оказываете фронту, семьям наших погибших героев. Они сражались за нас, за нашу Родину. Вечная им память. Минута молчания.
Now, I want you to notice how conveniently he is not telling how many people fallen. He says he acknowledges that there were some people fallen, but we want to know how many. We want the official data. We have not been given that for a long time. In 21 months, they've just told us 3 times. That's it. We demand to know.
Уважаемые друзья, наша битва за суверенитет, за справедливость носит без всякого преувеличения национально-освободительный характер. Потому что мы отстаиваем безопасность и благополучие нашего народа.
Now, this gets real interesting from here, folks. We defend the security and well-being of people. I don't quite know what to say.
Высшее историческое право быть Россией.
The highest historical right of Russia to be a strong, independent country,
Независимой
power, an independent
страной цивилизации.
country of civilization. Well, it really says country civilization. I think what he meant to say, well, he would want to say, is Russian country empire.
Именно наша страна, русский мир, как не раз бывало в истории, преградили путь тем, кто претендует сегодня на мировое господство.
Okay, so our world, Russian world, our country, are determined to defend the world from those who want to dominate. Well, obviously, that's the United States of America.
На свою исключительность.
So they
Мы сражаемся сейчас
they want world domination and they claim their exclusivity.
за свободу не только России, но и всего мира.
So this is brilliant. We're fighting not just for the freedom of Russia, but for the freedom of the entire world. So far, I don't know what to say, folks. I cringe.
Мы открыто говорим, что диктатура одного гегемона, мы видим это, все сейчас это видят.
Dictatorship of one country, one hegemon, and they love this word, hegemon. And he says that not just we are seeing that, everyone in the world is seeing that.
Дряхлеет.
So this dominance is weakening.
Она пошла, что называется, в разнос и просто опасна для окружающих. Это уже понятно всему мировому большинству. Но, повторю, именно наша страна находится сейчас в авангарде формирования более справедливого мироустройства. И хочу подчеркнуть, без суверенной, сильной России никакой прочный, стабильный миропорядок невозможен.
So Russia is the vanguard of creating a new world. And without strong, independent Russia, a stable world order is not possible. I beg to differ. There are two superpowers in the world right now. Well, one superpower, one aspiring superpower. That's the United States and China. Two largest economies in the world, two largest armies, and two largest geopolitical players. Where is Russia in that picture? What Vladimir Putin is talking about? Russia has been isolated, and everyone is doing fine without Russia, has been doing fine for the past 21 months. What is he talking about? Okay? It is possible, Vladimir. You know, if you don't know, I'll open your eyes. It is possible to have a stable, peaceful world without Russia. It is possible.
Мы знаем, какой угрозе противостоим. Сегодня
Threat.
практически
So Russia is
официальной
standing
идеологией
against a threat.
правящих элит стали русофобия, другие формы расизма и неонацизма.
So Russia is fighting against Russophobia and other forms of racism and neo-Nazism. That's what the Western elites are pushing. Russophobia, other forms of racism, and neo-Nazis. Let's just for a second imagine that the world elites, I don't know, whatever it is, world elites are pushing this Russophobia. Well, there are 145 million Russians in the world. And there are 8 billion people living. So Russia, in terms of population, in terms of language, in terms of citizens, you know, in terms of everything, is just a little tiny speck, despite it's the largest country in the world territorially. So even if they do in Russophobia, well, you know what? The world is still can be stable, you know.
Они направлены не только против русского, но и против всех народов России. Татар, чеченцев, аварцев, тувинцев, башкир, бурятов, якутов, осетин, евреев, ингушей, марийцев, алтайцев. Нас много, всех сейчас они не назову. Но...
So Vladimir Putin is trying to, somewhat consolidate all nationalities that consist, that they live in Russia. One of Russia's largest threats comes from within. And that threat is Russia would be falling apart. Not by some world elites, not by enemy, but you know what? About 6 weeks ago, we saw an incredibly ugly picture in Russia. I'll remind you if you've forgotten or if you haven't heard about it. There was a plane en route to Makhachkala from Israel. It was to land in Makhachkala to refuel and continue flying to Moscow. And the plane was full of Jewish people, of the Jews who were flying to Moscow, and there were some Dagestani children who had gone to Israel to hospitals, because Israel has the best medicine in the world. And there was an ugly scene at Makhachkala airport. Basically, a crowd gathered, and they were looking for Jews. And I don't even know what, I'm afraid to think what they wanted to do with the Jews, you know. Not good, okay? And this is one of the first signs that something is not well in Russia, something is not, how do I say, something is not stable, okay? And Vladimir Putin is trying, and I think the Russian state will be trying to somehow try to consolidate people, because Russia is a keg of gunpowder ready to explode. Because there are so many different nationalities live there, and they have different views on to how Russia is created and is organized, I should say.
Повторю, против всех народов России это направлено. Западу, в принципе, не нужна такая большая и многонациональная страна, как Россия. Наше многообразие и единство культур, традиций, языков, этносов просто не укладывается в логику западных расистов и колонизаторов. В их жестокую схему...
Western racists and colonizationists. Well, basically, the West hates to see Russia united, hates to see Russia doing well, hates to see Russia prosper, hates to see that all ethnoses in Russia are united and together. And that's what Vladimir Putin says. I think he's very far from the truth.
Тему тотального обезличивания, разобщения, подавления и эксплуатации. Поэтому вновь запустили старую шарманку. Мол, Россия – это тюрьма народов, а сами русские – народ рабов. Слышали это много раз на протяжении веков. Слышали также, что Россию, оказывается, нужно сегодня деколонизировать. А на самом деле, что им нужно? На самом деле нужно расчленить и разграбить Россию.
Dismember and plunder, okay? Dismember and plunder. First of all, I did not hear once anywhere in the Western media, in the Western society discussions, I didn't hear once that someone wants to break Russia apart, okay? Someone, I didn't see anyone who wanted Russia to fall apart. Quite on the contrary. Western politicians are very afraid of Russia falling apart. They want Russia to become democratic. They want Russia to become, to remain what it is right now. Basically, a bunch of republics and provinces united under one flag, okay? They want to have one leader. They want to have the control. They don't want Russia to go into chaos, because that would bring so much danger to the West. Russia has lots of nuclear weapons, and they are scattered all over Russia. What if different republics break away, and each republic, each province, or each part of Russia possesses own nuclear weapons? This is a disaster, okay? So they don't need to dismember and plunder Russia. No. Russian government is actually been plundering Russia, and you know, the Western countries, the Western powers, they don't want to do that. China does, but not the Western elites. This is a fundamental mistake. Well, Putin is fundamentally wrong here.
не получается силой, тогда нужно посеять смуту. Хочу подчеркнуть, любое вмешательство извне, провокация...
They want to sow chaos into Russia, he says. If they don't take us over by power, instead they sow the seeds of chaos. And then he emphasizes that Russian government will regard any intervention from outside as provocation with aim of causing interethnic conflicts.
Как агрессивные действия против нашей страны, как попытку вновь бросить России терроризм и экстремизм как инструмент борьбы с нами. И мы в соответствии с этим соответствующим образом будем реагировать.
Folks, every sentence that Vladimir Putin says is a message to Russian people. This speech, what he's saying, is not aimed at you. It's aimed at Russian citizens. And every single sentence is a message. He is sowing his thoughts into the heads of Russians. Okay? What he's saying is that any troubles, I translate English to English, so to speak. He is saying that any troubles that Russia is going through, they have an outside origin. That the West is so evil, the West is so Russophobic, the West is so jealous of Russia's riches, of Russia's greatness, of Russia's culture, of this Russian world, that it wants to dismember and to break Russia apart, okay? And whatever happens inside Russia, that probably a situation like in Dagestan, that people revolt and go and look for Jews who land on the plane. You all saw the videos. It was absolutely horrendous and scary. Well, if that happens, then it's instigated from the forces outside Russia, not the inside. Inside, everything's perfect. All the ethnicities, they live in peace, in harmony. If something bad happens, it's forced upon us from the outside. This is a very important message.
У нас большая, многоликая страна. И в этом многообразии культур, традиций, обычаев наша сила, огромное конкурентное преимущество и потенциал. Мы должны его постоянно укреплять, беречь. Беречь – это многообразное согласие, наше общее достояние. Обращаю на это внимание руководителей всех субъектов Федерации и рассчитываю здесь на авторитет пастырей наших традиционных религий, на ответственность всех политических сил и общественных организаций. Думаю, что мы все помним. Нужно помнить уроки революции 1917 года и последовавшей затем гражданской войны, распада СССР в 1991.
Now, he continues the message. Basically, in other words, he's repeating, we Russians are of different ethnicities, but we coexist peacefully and everything is perfect inside Russia. We have such a great country. And we have to fend off all the attempts to break us apart, all the attempts to, bring foreign influence into Russia. Basically, right now, in front of our eyes, he's laying the foundation for this new ideology. If something goes wrong in Russia, then it's not fault of Russian government. It's not fault of actions of Vladimir Putin, decisions he made. Oh, God forbid, no. It's the foreign influence, okay? Someone is protesting, must be financed from abroad. These women whose husbands are at the front lines protesting, something's fishy here, Someone is telling them what to do, because on their own they couldn't figure out. On their own, everything is fine. So this is very important. And then he brings the history the history of 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, the history of breakup of the USSR, and basically he's going to say, we should never repeat that. We should never allow that to happen because, look, these are tragedies. Remember the civil war in Russia in 1918, 1923? Those are tragedies, okay? And this is the last thing that the Russian government wants right now, okay? He wants to make sure that everyone understands, and everyone understands the horrors. He exaggerates, he bends the truth, okay? But this is one thing they're deathly afraid of.
Казалось бы, столько лет прошло, но живущие сейчас люди всех национальностей, даже родившиеся уже в 21 веке, до сих пор, даже спустя десятилетия, расплачиваются за допущенные тогда просчеты.
Oh my God. So we're living, this is 2023, this is 21st century, but somehow we're still paying for the mistakes that the previous generations made, okay? In the revolution, in the civil war, and, oh my God, the breakup of the USSR, okay? So whatever troubles we have, it's not our fault. It's those mistakes made way back in the past.
За потакание сепаратистским иллюзиям и амбициям.
For indulging separatist illusions and ambitions in the name of... This is what they're deathly afraid of. They are afraid that different parts of Russia would be standing up and claiming that they're not going to take it anymore.
За слабость центральной власти.
This is it. He named it, folks. Vladimir Putin just... This is the key, the spine of his ideology. This is the spine of Putinism. This is the spine of this total war thing. So we are paying for the weakness of the central power. The weakness of the central power. You see, if the central power is weak, nothing good happens. If the central power is strong, then Russia is fine. And this is exactly what the vertical of power is. Strong central power. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, power, central power, is always against people, is always against those powers who are far away in different provinces, okay? Because there's also a power struggle. This is life, okay? And this is about people. Russia belongs to Russian people. Russia does not belong to the central power. Central power must not be strong. Central power must not even exist because it's about running own lives. It's about self-governance. We are the people is the concept that is absolutely opposite of the concept that the Vladimir Putin just said. Okay? Strong central power, we are the people. This is what makes Russia Russia, because it has strong central power. And Vladimir Putin, the quintessence of this strong central power, actually he helped to create it, this vertical of power. He's been doing it for the past, 20 plus years. He wants to remain strong. He wants this power to remain strong. He wants to remain leader of this power, the decision maker, the czar. And this is the core of his new ideology, Putinism. Strong power is good. Weak central power is bad, because then uprisings happen, revolutions happen. People, God forbid, try to take their lives into their own hands. Keep on listening.
За политику искусственного, насильственного разделения большой русской нации, триединого народа, русских, белорусов и украинцев.
Oh, this is another. This is gold. Триединая нация. Let me just...
Большой русской нации, триединого народа,
Tri-united nation, tri-united people of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. So this is not three countries, but one big united country, the Russian world. Russia, Ukraine, Belarus.
русских, белорусов и украинцев. Возникшие после
You know what? This is also very important to understand. He finally made it very public and very clear where he's aiming at. Russia to unite with Ukraine and Belarus under the umbrella of Russian world. Well, folks, you know, to me, it's absolutely clear. There are three countries: Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. They have a lot of things in common, much in common, but they're absolutely different. They're separate, independent, sovereign countries. I was born and raised in Russia, in the south of Russia, with great Ukrainian influence. I speak Russian with Ukrainian accent. It's called surjik. I lived in Ukraine for about a year. I worked for a Ukrainian company for a long, long time, for decades. I've been to Belarus, both on business and on leisure. And I know the countries well, the ones that Vladimir Putin is speaking about. And guess what? They're different. They're different. People in Belarus, they're not Russian. They're Belarusian. They want to stay Belarusian. Ukraine, the same. They want nothing to do with Russia, especially now. And Vladimir Putin wants to unite. And I think this is going to be just the beginning. First, it'll be, well, at least what he wants, Ukraine and Belarus. Next comes Kazakhstan. Well, why not? Much in common. Lots of people in Kazakhstan speak Russian. Then Uzbekistan next. Then Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. Hey, we have 70 years of one past. We used to be the same country. Let's do that again. You know what? Doesn't work that way. The USSR ceased to exist in 1991, and there was one country, and it became 16 independent sovereign countries. And people of those countries have a right to decide their own fate, their own lives. You know, that they have a right to decide how they govern themselves. And all of a sudden comes Putin and says, hey, Russian world, one country, Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia.
распада Российской империи и Советского Союза кровавые очаги не только еще тлеют, но иногда и вспыхивают с новой силой. И раны эти еще долго не залечить. Мы этих ошибок никогда не забудем и не должны их повторять.
What mistakes? What mistakes? The countries becoming independent, Ukraine becoming independent, Belarus, he's calling these mistakes. He will never forget. He will never forgive. Well, I'm pretty sure that, that's his personal wish and desire, yes. But my God, this is scary.
Хочу вновь подчеркнуть, любые попытки посеять межнациональную и межрелигиозную рознь, расколоть наше общество, это предательство.
To split our society is a betrayal. Well, our society, Russian society, I don't even know about, I'm not talking about other countries. Our society was split on February 24th, 2022, when Vladimir Putin made personal decision himself, and he informed us that he decided to invade Ukraine by declaring the special military operation and start killing Ukrainians. That's when Russian society got split. From the inside, no foreign influence, no foreign pressure. From the very heart, from the Kremlin, that's where the split came from.
Преступление против всей России.
And yes, here I actually agree with Vladimir Putin. That was a crime against the entire Russia.
Мы никому не позволим делить Россию, которая у нас одна. О ней, о нашем Отечестве, наши молитвы, которые звучат на разных языках. И хотел бы в этой аудитории вспомнить слова святителя Григория Богослова. «Почитать мать – святое дело, но у всякого своя мать, а общая мать – это Родина».
So Putin is sending a message about the motherland. We have one country, one motherland, one, to split it would be a crime. And he would not allow anyone to do that. Again, he did it himself with his own hands in February of 2022 by invading Ukraine.
Ваше Святейшество, уважаемые коллеги, тема нынешнего собора – настоящий…
Your Holiness, who gave the right of Patriarch Kirill to be called Holiness?
и будущее русского мира. Русский мир – это все поколения наших предков и наши потомки, которые будут жить после нас. Русский мир – это Древняя Русь, Московское царство, Российская империя, Советский Союз. Это современная Россия, которая…
The Russian world. He defines what Russian world is. The Russian worlds are those who lived before us and who will live after us. It's prehistoric Russia, it's ancient Russia, it's Russian Empire, it's ancient Russia, it's Russian Empire, it's the USSR, and it's modern day Russia, the current Russia.
которая возвращает, укрепляет и умножает свой суверенитет как мировая держава.
Unfortunately, Russia is not a world power anymore. And, it had a chance. But all the chances were destroyed by one man who's making the speech, Vladimir Putin, in February of 2022.
Русский мир объединяет всех, кто чувствует духовную связь с нашей Родиной, кто считает себя носителем русского языка, истории, культуры, независимо даже от национальной или даже религиозной принадлежности. Но хочу подчеркнуть, без русских, как этноса, без русского народа нет и не может быть русского мира и самой России. В этом утверждении нет какой-то претензии на превосходство, на исключительность, на избранность. Это просто факт. Как и то, что в нашей Конституции четко закреплен статус русского языка как языка государства образующего народа. Русские…
Russian world. Without the Russians, there is no Russian world. Well, it makes sense, but besides Russians, there are over 100 ethnoses living in Russia.
Это больше, чем национальность. Так всегда было, кстати говоря, в истории нашей страны. Это в том числе культурное,
So he's trying to unite everyone, give everyone idea.
Быть русским – это
Everyone
прежде
who's
всего
watching,
ответственность.
give them the idea
Повторю,
that
огромная
there's one
ответственность
country.
за сбережение России. Именно в этом истинный патриотизм. И как русский…
The real patriotism is in preserving Russia, preserving Russian world. So, one country.
Человек, хочу сказать, только единая, сильная, суверенная Россия способна гарантировать будущее и самобытное развитие и русского, и всех других народов, которые веками жили и живут в нашей стране, объединены общностью исторической судьбы. Что означает
Oh,
суверенитет для нашего государства, для каждой семьи, для каждого человека? В чем его смысл, ценность, реальное наполнение? Это прежде всего свобода. Свобода для России, для нашего народа, а значит и для каждого из нас. Потому что в нашей традиции человек не может чувствовать себя свободным, если не свободны его близкие, дети, его отчизна. И именно такую подлинную свободу защищают сейчас наши парни, наши мужчины, солдаты и офицеры, дочери Отечества. Свободный народ, который понимает свою ответственность перед сегодняшним днем и будущими поколениями.
Free people. Is he really talking about the Russians now? Free people. Are Russians free? You see, Vladimir Putin here making this speech, he uses many techniques, and one of the techniques is the Russian government says one thing, and the reality is absolutely opposite, okay? He calls Russians free people. Can Russian people express their opinions freely? Not really. Can they stand up and go out in public and make themselves heard? Not really. They're not free to do that. They need to go through lots of procedures, and there are many laws and regulations outlawing this activity, Russian people free to decide whether they go and serve in the army or not? Not really. If the state wants to mobilize Russian men and send them to front lines in Ukraine, is a Russian man free to decide? No, not really. What is he talking about?
Единственный источник власти. Власти суверенной, которая призвана служить всем людям, всему народу.
So he's saying that the power is people. People is the only source, free people is the only source of power. Well, that's true in theory, but in Russia there are no free people, so therefore they cannot be the source of real power. And the real power is the vertical of power. He contradicts himself. He says that earlier he said that the strong central power is a must. And now he's saying that people are the only source. Wait a second. These are absolutely different concepts. People have the power or the strong central power. It's like black and white.
А не обслуживают, конечно, чьи-то частные, корпоративные, сословные.
Vladimir, my God, you are saying these things, that power is to serve people and not to serve someone's private corporate class interests, some rich man interests, some who want power interests. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to say.
Тем более чужие, иностранные интересы.
Oh, now he's talking about foreign interests.
По-настоящему свободный человек всегда созидатель. Мы поддерживаем стремление каждого приносить пользу стране, обществу, людям. Из этого и складывается суверенное развитие в национальных интересах. Нам предстоит решать колоссальные задачи по обустройству громадных пространств от Тихого океана до Балтики и Черного моря. Наша экономика, промышленность, сельское хозяйство, новые отрасли, творческие, креативные индустрии, национальный бизнес должны кратно нарастить свой потенциал.
Was I only one listening in Russia what he was talking about? Folks, he's saying that in the future, Russia has to expand economically, financially, industrially, okay? That in the future, we will have to make Russia a comfortable place from the Pacific to the Black Sea. This man has been in power for 23 years. What has he done? Anything? Why in the future we will have to do that? What did we do in the past? What has been accomplished? Anything? So much money. Russia had the richest period in its history. Why wasn't it made then? Oh, now we would have to do that.
Обращаюсь сейчас и к предпринимателям, которых знаю в этом зале тоже много. Хочу отдельно поблагодарить вас, дорогие друзья, за слаженную работу.
That's perfect. I mean, here I believe 100%. As Vladimir Putin just said, absolute truth. He addressed his friends who were sitting in the businessmen, his friends who were sitting in that hall, and he's thanking them for good work, coordinated work, effective work. Yep, his friends are billionaires many times over. Question is, how did they get there? How did they become so rich? Do Russians ask these questions? Do they even think about this? Because this is key stuff. Putin is not hiding. He's basically just saying everything in public.
Именно объединяя усилия государства, бизнеса, мы сорвали беспрецедентную экономическую агрессию Запада. Его санкционный.
You see, there hasn't been any aggression of the West against Russia, economic aggression. What West has done is basically it's isolated Russia. It made laws and regulations saying to warning and actually making a rule to own business people. You cannot work with Russia anymore. No one has actually invaded Russia economically, okay? But everyone just ceased to do business with Russia, that's all. So Putin is not truthful here. He is absolutely not telling us the truth. The sanctions is not the sanctions are not economic aggression. That's BS.
Россия будет наращивать поддержку суверенного национального предпринимательства.
That's you know what? He's talking the talk, but he's definitely not walking the walk. You ask any businessman in Russia right now how government has been supporting small, medium businesses, and I think that what you're gonna get in return is cursing words.
Для этого у нас сейчас появляются принципиально новые инструменты. Вкладывайте в Россию, создавайте рабочие места, развивайте производство, участвуйте в подготовке кадров.
This just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Who would want to invest into Russia now? There's zero investments. The one and only investor is Russian government. That's it. What is he talking about? He's saying that there are multiple tools that help the businessmen in Russia now. You know what? Business does not need any help. Business needs to be left alone. Business needs freedom. Business needs free, unregulated markets. That's called capitalism, and that's the most effective economic system in the world. What Vladimir Putin is trying to do, he's building the USSR 2.0. He's regulating prices. He's regulating, well, at least trying to regulate prices, production. He's regulating the way the banks can or cannot sell American dollars. And then he's doing the same thing that the Soviet government was doing back in the days. That's not help to businessmen. No, but he's calling it help.
Экономики воплотиться в новые успехи и возможности ваших компаний.
And that will make new successes and opportunities for the companies. What successes? Instead of leaving businessmen alone, you create myriads of new regulations, you increase taxes, and you try to steal everything that they make. The foreign companies that still remain in Russia, you steal their properties. What investments, what opportunities, what successes?
Национальный бизнес, работая на укрепление суверенитета, сам становится сильнее и сувереннее. менее зависим становится
That's just talking the talk. To the ones who don't understand.
мироустройства. Суверенное развитие страны, экономики, бизнеса, социальной сферы должно нести благополучие всем гражданам, всем российским семьям, а значит быть справедливым. Речь не о примитивной уравниловке, конечно, нет. Справедливость – это прежде всего достойные условия для жизни, современные объекты культуры, здравоохранения, спорта во всех регионах страны. Это квалифицированная, хорошо оплачиваемая работа, высокий общественный престиж рабочего, инженера, учителя, врача, художника, деятеля культуры, предпринимателя, каждого добросовестного специалиста, мастера. Справедливость – это и равные широкие возможности.
I've seen this before. I've heard this before. I remember that. I heard this music, friends. I have heard this before. Oh my gosh. The same words. Long, long time ago.
Для учебы, для жизненного старта, для самореализации.
Good living standard for all citizens.
На Западе
Good
сейчас
equal
практикуют не только
opportunities.
политику.
The USSR. He's talking. This is exactly how the Soviet government was. That was the narrative. Was, you know. We are back into the USSR, folks.
Культуры отмены, но и фактически отмены гуманитарного образования.
So now he's speaking. See, he's using this technique. It's called contrast. He talks in very bright colors about Russia, and all of a sudden he switches to the West, and West in the dark tones, very dark tones. He says that in the West, not only they have cancel culture, but they also cancel in liberal arts education.
В результате примитивными становятся и культура, и образование.
You see, he's talking about the West, but the reality is happening in Russia. The cancel culture has been introduced in Russia. Look, he signed, a couple days ago, he signed the law outlawing LGBTQ entirely, not just some organizations that support human rights and so forth. No, the entire not community, but the entire thing, it's outlawed in Russia. And then this man comes out and says, well, the West, evil West, has introduced the cancel culture. And then he's destroying, making its education and culture primitive. I guess those Russians who have nothing to compare with, who don't know what the West is really about, who have never traveled outside Russia, who don't speak English, who don't watch anything but Russian TV, they might believe him, and they actually do believe him.
Многие классические предметы просто выбрасывают из западных учебных программ.
Well, most, like some classic subjects, classes are thrown away from Western curriculum. Funny. They just have thrown foreign languages out of Russian curriculum, but they're blaming the West for doing that. Folks, these guys are good.
Заменяются какими-то гендерными и тому подобными науками.
This is great. They are replacing science and arts in education. They are forcing teachers to tell of patriotism in the physics, in the mathematics, in chemistry classes. And now Putin is telling that it's the West that is replacing classical education with some kind of a gender and similar sciences.
Лженауками, конечно.
False sciences, okay.
Напротив, нужен настоящий прорыв в культурной жизни. И нам здесь есть чему поучить.
You know what? Artists are fleeing Russia in hordes. And Putin wants a breakthrough in cultural life.
у наших предков, которые и в традиционном, и, кстати, в авангардном искусстве задавали образцы для всего мира. Убежден, суверенитет страны, укрепление ее роли в мире невозможно без расцвета самобытной культуры во всех ее проявлениях. И, конечно, нам важно взять все лучшее, что накопила отечественная и мировая система классического образования.
They just quit. They severed ties with international education institutions. They have turned around from Verona educational system. They literally severed ties just months ago. And here Putin is telling the Russians otherwise. Oh, we have to take the best practices. You have just taken the best practices and drained them down the toilet. What are you talking about?
При этом наши школы, университеты, колледжи должны быть современными, открытыми для всего передового.
You have introduced patriotism classes, propaganda classes in Russian schools. What are you telling us now?
Нам нужна целостная система просвещения, в которой гармонично дополняют друг друга.
Holistic system of education? What kind of...
Семья, система образования, национальная культура, работа детских, молодежных, спортивных, военно-патриотических организаций.
There you go. Military patriotic organizations, of course. This is it. This is it. So this is the foundation of the Russian world. The family, the education, the state, the athletics, the military patriotic organizations play the key role there.
Широкое движение наставничества.
A broad movement of mentoring, yeah.
И добавлю мудрое слово духовных пастырей. Оно просто необходимо. Да.
And his translation in English is not very correct. He said, and he wanted to add that by all means, the society needs to have spiritual pastors. Okay?
Церковь отделена от государства. И патриарх не раз мне говорил, несмотря на это, у нас уникальные сложились отношения между церковью и государством.
Folks, again, he's saying one thing, in reality, things are completely different. In Russia, church is the state. It's a symbiosis. The system is symbiotic now. And then he's saying that church is separated. Eastern Orthodox priests come to hospitals, perform sermons, and doctors are afraid to stop them because doctors are afraid of being accused of insulting the believers' feelings and thrown to jail. Okay, is that separation of church and state? I don't think so.
Что хотел бы в этой связи заметить? Но нельзя отделить церковь от общества и от человека.
You cannot separate church from society and from people. Well, you know what? It's up to people. It's up to us. It's up to me to decide whether I want church in my life or I don't. It's called freedom. No one decides for me whether I should be a believer, agnostic, whether I should go to church, what confession I should go to. No one decides that for me. Well, Vladimir Putin seems to be wanting to do that.
С этим я полностью согласен с патриархом. И поэтому вновь подчеркиваю важность участия представителей всех российских традиционных религий в образовании и воспитании нашей молодежи.
How the hell church is divided from the state in Russia if church is invited into the education system to take part in the education of children? Where is the separation of church and the state?
И, конечно же, в укреплении духовно-нравственных, семейных ценностей, она имеет неприходящее значение. Это участие наших пастырей, всех наших традиционных людей.
So basically, Vladimir Putin is saying that Russian state it's necessity to get involved in people's lives, into education, into practicing religion, into families and so forth.
Ваше святейшество, уважаемые
Your
друзья,
Holiness.
вы знаете, что
Why does Vladimir Putin keep calling Patriarch Kirill Your Holiness? Your Holiness. He's not a holy man. He is a priest.
уже подписан указ объявить следующий 2024 год в России годом семьи. И хочу особо отметить, что такое решение действительно опирается на позицию абсолютного большинства нашего общества. Уверен, что Всемирный Русский Народный Собор также его единодушно поддерживает.
Okay, so Putin has decided to declare 2024 as the year of family. I like that. Why not?
Что здесь хочу сказать и подчеркнуть? Преодолеть сложнейшие демографические вызовы, с которыми мы
now we're talking, friends.
невозможно
Now we're
только с помощью
talking.
денег. Социальных выплат, пособий, льгот, отдельных программ. Да, конечно, цифры бюджетных демографических расходов, конечно, крайне значимы. Но это далеко не все. Гораздо важнее жизненные ориентиры человека. В основе семьи, в рождении ребенка лежат любовь, доверие, прочная нравственная опора. Мы ни в коем случае и никогда не должны об этом забывать.
Now, he wants to declare 2024. He's going to declare 2024 the year of family. But then he tells us why. Because of the bad demographic situation in Russia. Well, it's not just bad, it's catastrophic. One of my videos coming up, I'm going to be doing just about that. By the end of this century, in 75 years, Russian population will decline to about 67 million people. Now 145. The largest country in the world will have 67 million people. If everything is going the way it's been going, it has been going for past 20 years. Putin is worried. There won't be too many soldiers. There won't be too many workers at the military-industrial complex enterprises making weapons. Who's going to provide that might, that army, the missiles to take over Ukraine and Belarus? He's worried. Therefore, he's saying that, paying money for families to have kids is important, but we should never forget about love and moral values. Russians aren't having kids anymore. Because what kind of a crazy person would have a child, would plan his life or her life for years to come? Very few people do. Russian women do not have any more children. Vladimir Putin, you fix things first. You create an environment of peace, prosperity, and stability. You make an environment of good living standard for every Russian. You lower taxes. You allow businessmen to do business freely with no interference. You disband KGB. You do that first, and then people will start having babies. You don't have to declare year of family and things like that, or pay people to have children. You won't have to do that. You're absolutely right. There's a moral basis, and act according to it, and then Russia will not have a problem in demography. But you in the past 23 years have done so much that Russia is facing the biggest demographic catastrophe in its history. That's your fault. That's your deed.
У многих наших народов, слава Богу, сохраняется традиция крепкой, многопоколенной семьи, где воспитываются 4, 5 и больше детей. Вспомним, что и в русских семьях, у многих наших бабушек, прабабушек, детей было и по 7, и по 8, и того больше человек.
So, our grandparents, great-grandparents had 7, 8 children and more. Let's remember about that. Yeah, right.
Давайте эти замечательные традиции сберегать и возрождать.
Well, I have one question that no one seems to be asking. Vladimir, are you married? You have 2 daughters. What happened to your wife? Did you get divorced? How can you talk about family? Do you have a family? Are you a married man?
Многодетность, большая семья должны стать нормой, образом жизни для всех.
How many
народов
children
России.
did you have?
А семья – это
7,
не
8?
просто основа
How are you
государства,
teaching others how to do that?
это духовное явление, источник нравственности. Поддержка семьи, материнства, детства должны охватывать работу всех, без исключения сфер государственного управления, нашу экономическую, социальную, инфраструктурную политику.
Look how people are
просвещение и
looking at him
образование.
like he's an idol.
Здравоохранение, конечно. Деятельность всех общественных объединений.
Now, Putin briefly mentioned healthcare. Your friends have destroyed healthcare. The remaining doctors, who remained in Russian hospitals and medical clinics after your friends did reorganization. Doctors ran away from Russia. They ran away from mobilization. So many Russians cannot book a doctor appointment. Vladimir, where do you live? In Russia or any country? In a Barbie land? Where is your residence? Which Russia are you talking about? The real Russia? Have you even tried going and making a doctor's appointment in Russia? What have you done to healthcare in the past 23 years? How many hospitals were there in Russia in 2000? And how many hospitals there are now? This is one simple fact. Answer that question and then talk.
Объединение наших традиционных религий тоже необходимо именно для укрепления семьи. Сбережение и приумножение народа России – наша задача на предстоящие десятилетия. И сразу скажу больше, на поколение вперед. Это будущее русского мира, тысячелетней, вечной России.
1000-year
Ваше
eternal
Святейшество,
Russia.
дорогие друзья, перед нами много масштабных задач.
Eternal Russia.
Их решение требует действительно соборной работы, и мы к ней готовы. Мы стали сильнее. В состав России вернулись наши исторические регионы.
Folks, what is he talking about? He's saying that Russia has become stronger. The historic Russian regions came back and as new parts of Russia.
Общество отказывается от всего наносного, обращается к истинным, подлинным ценностям.
The society is turned into true, authentic values. I don't really know how to comment that. It's saying the black is white and the white is black.
Петр Аркадьевич Столыпин в свое время подчеркивал, что выше всего право, опирающееся на всенародную силу. И мы вместе показали и такую всенародную силу, и такую всенародную волю.
That's not what the real life is.
Отстаивать именно свои коренные интересы. Коренные интересы народов
Fundamental
России.
interests of
Руководствоваться не
peoples of
чужими,
Russia. To be guided not by others,
заимствованными у кого-то
borrowed from the
собственными,
West.
суверенными мировоззрением,
Он
своим пониманием того, как должна развиваться семья и все государство. Строить Россию для себя и для наших детей. Хочу вновь поблагодарить вас за поддержку.
Vladimir Putin, by his decision, has destroyed Russia. We are seeing the remnants of the country that used to be. He has destroyed not just for us, but more importantly, for our children, for grandchildren, and for generations. And it's going to take a mighty long time for Russia to somehow just recover, okay? Not completely, but recover enough to be accepted in the international family of countries. Because no one wants to see Russia there now. And that's going to last for generations. Russia is isolated culturally, economically, financially, athletically, scientifically, in every single possible way. Russia is the most sanctioned country in the history of humankind. Vladimir, you have destroyed Russia for us, for our children, and for the ones who are to come after. What in the world are you talking about?
Патриотический настрой. И, конечно, поздравить с 30-летием Всемирного Русского Народного Собора. Но особые слова благодарности хочу сказать в адрес его главы, патриарха Московского и всея Руси Кирилла. Знаю, какую неустанную работу по духовному возрождению России вы, ваше святейшество, проводите.
Spiritual revival of Russia. Show me what this spiritual, explain me what this spiritual revival of Russia is. Please, anyone? Putin is saying that the Patriarch is doing such tremendous job to spiritually revive Russia. What has Patriarch done? Putting holy water on Joseph Stalin's new freshly erected monuments, okay, sanctifying Joseph Stalin, sanctifying ballistic nuclear missiles called Satan. That's revival of Russia, spiritual revival, religious revival of Russia. Russia was doing fine before Putin came to power. To revive from where? The real God is inside of our hearts. Okay, not in church. I'm not against church, but my God is truly right here. No one needed to revive me. No one needs to revive me. What is this guy, Patriarch, doing to revive Russia? Anyone?
Как значима и весома ваша позиция, хочу это подчеркнуть. Как много делает под вашим руководством Русская Православная Церковь.
How much is Russian Orthodox Church doing under the leadership of Patriarch? How much? Show me what it's doing. Anyone, please tell us.
Клирики и миряне для воплощения в жизнь социальных, благотворительных, добровольческих проектов. Какая поддержка оказывается нашим воинам?
Oh, you support our soldiers in Ukraine.
Ждут слова патриарха, наши солдаты и офицеры на передовой.
At the front lines, the soldiers wait for what Patriarch says. As I said.
Рад сегодня именно на Всемирном Русском Народном Соборе поздравить вас с присуждением президентской премии 2023 года за вклад в укрепление единства российской нации. Низкий вам поклон. Желаю собору успешной работы. Спасибо.
Folks, Vladimir Putin's speech was about 23 minutes, and then he gave the stage to the Patriarch Kirill and other people. I consider Vladimir Putin's message made on November 28th is as the most important of this year. I explained a little bit and I explain again. He introduces idea of one populace, one world, one leader. This is his clear message. It consists of 3 parts. Now, at first, he speaks of people, Russian people. Then he speaks of the world, and then he speaks of the leadership. This is the foundation. Well, this is a new ideology, and I call it Putin'Sm. I don't know. If you want to come up with a different name, please do, because it's, of course, it's unofficial name. But I want to summarize Putin's speech. Anyone who, like me, wants to fact check this speech would be appalled, because most of things that he says, he paints a picture perfect, picture colorful, and the real world is completely different. He says white, reality is black. He says up, reality is down. You know, his speech was aimed at the Russian people, mostly for the ones who support him. For some incredible reason, unknown to me, around 80% of people support Vladimir Putin today. And this speech was made for them. This speech basically justifies the invasion to Ukraine. This speech justifies the stripping freedoms away from Russian citizens. This speech justifies fallen living standards. This speech justifies ever-increasing central power of Russia. Vladimir Putin gave me a very good explanation. I used to call it the vertical of power, and he simply put it elegantly. He said, strong central power, and that's what it is. He justified everything that is happening in Russia. Okay, now, from here and on, if he remains at the helm of Russia, or his friends, or successor comes from his friends, then the direction that country is going to is fairly clear to me. Russian people must unite, because we are the Russian world. We are the light. We are to lead the world. We have historic lands behind us, ancestors. We're not just Russia. We are the Russian world. We are Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus, and perhaps other countries, but that's in the future. We are surrounded by the enemies. The world elites are Russophobes. They want to destroy Russian sovereignty. They want to split Russia into pieces. They want to erase Russian ethnicity. They want to erase Russian culture, Russian language. We cannot allow that to happen. We must unite behind this central power that is a good for Russia, behind the church, because church brings morals, behind the leader. One country, one church, one leader, one Russian world. Only united, we will prevail. We will win. Lasting Russia, 1,000 years old, that has existed and will be existing, needs our help. We must unite. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, we must sacrifice a lot in different ways. We will sacrifice some freedoms, because they can be used by the enemies from abroad to sow the ideology, to control people, to manipulate people. Look at the mothers who are and the wives of those who mobilized, are protesting. Do you think they're doing it by themselves? No. Those powers at be from the West are manipulating them, putting thoughts into their heads. Lower pay? Well, there's not much we can do because enemy is at the door. We're surrounded by the enemy. Unprecedented economic aggression against Russia. Living standard, you cannot afford much food anymore. Well, you got to understand, you must unite because, this is a battle. This is a fight. This is a total war. Oh, you can't afford, things anymore that you used to be. You got to understand, enemy at the door. This is Putinism, and it's born. The big brother was born before, but now the big brother has the foundation, has explanation, has packaging. They've packaged the big brother, so to speak. So many things that was Vladimir Putin said today reeked of the USSR. Remember at the beginning of his reign as the president, he said that he considered the destruction of the USSR the biggest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. Not First World War with millions of people dead, not Second World War, not the Red Terror, not the USSR, destroying lives of so many people, not the nuclear bombs, nothing like that. It's the destruction of the USSR, the biggest tragedy. Well, he's fixing that. He's reeking of the Soviet stuff, the USSR, and he's pretty successful. Well, folks, this is what I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found, I can't say interesting, but I found Vladimir Putin's speech educational, and I hope that it opened your eyes for many things. If you liked my commentary, my point of view, please let me know by hitting the like button. I am not going to chat on the live stream. There will be no live stream today. It's because it's a very lengthy live stream today. I want to finish it with a usual prayer, and I want everyone to join me praying, whether you're religious or not. If you're religious, please join me, and if you're not, then please join me anyway. You can call it whatever you want. Sending good vibes to people, good energy, good wishes. In my books, it's the same thing. So let's make the prayer a little different today and quick and powerful. Thank you. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for giving us these lives, our lives. Thank you for putting food on our tables and giving roofs over our heads. Thank you for surrounding us with people who we love and who love us. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads peaceful and safe, and raise our children to so when they become adults, they will make this world a better place. For now, please keep our children safe and healthy. Dear Lord, I would like to ask you today to stop the bloodshed in Ukraine, to stop the bloodshed in Israel and Palestine. And I want you to help all the people. I'm asking you to help all the people who have been affected by the tragedies in our countries. And I want you to reach out and touch the hearts of everyone who was sitting, listening to Vladimir Putin speak. Fill the hearts of those people with love. Fill with mercy, with remorse, with empathy. Make the hearts softer. Remind them that they are people. Remind them that some of them, they have families and they have loved ones. Soften up their hearts. So when you do that, they wake up from their lethargic sleep and they will understand what's happening. Please help the Ukrainians that have been affected by this terrible tragedy. Answer their prayers, make their wishes come true. Help everyone else who has been affected. And help Russia change. Wake Russian people up. Fill their hearts with love so they feel it. They feel you, your presence. They feel you around them. Remind them that they're human beings. Remind them that there's empathy in this world. Remind them that other people are suffering and this bloodshed needs to stop. Remind them that their lives depend on them and it's up to them to make the right decisions. It's up to them to build their lives, make them prosperous, spiritual, successful. And it's up to them, not up to, others, foreigners, enemies. Remind them that no one wants to destroy their lives. They are in charge. Dear Lord, please help everyone who is traveling right now, who is under the threat of Russian strikes in Ukraine, who is helping Ukrainians, opening their hearts and wallets and doors. Please help single mothers who are struggling, raising their children, trying to make ends meet. Please help those who are seeking for asylum. Help those who are sick, healthy, not healthy, who are struggling with their faith, homeless, jobless, depressed, addicted, and not feeling well about themselves. Fill their hearts with love and have them feel your love. Have them feel your warmth so they feel better about themselves. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to create this community. Thank you for everyone who's praying along with me or simply watching us pray. Thank you for everyone who has come and heard me, heard my message. Please help everyone who needs help in our community. Thank you, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Friends, thank you so very much for coming. Please come back for regular international world's news as seen from Russia update tomorrow on Wednesday. I hope you will like it. I'm creating it right now, and there are quite a few newsworthy explaining. So I will see you all tomorrow. But before I sign off, I'd like to ask you to say along with me as loud as you can, the usual, Carthago delenda est.